Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Total Entertainment. I'm David Ruben, and my guest today, who is going to help me deconstruct some ideas about the elements of vampirism in the movies, is my good friend, who's here? Delson Armstrong. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, David.
And you are the author of the Red Serpent series of novels that are just so compelling. And let's just bring people up to speed on the Red Serpent. You started with this is a series of books. Which one is the? I can't see it. The latest one.
Right now, The Prophet's Secret's out.
The Prophet's Secret.
The latest one is The Elemental King. That's actually out in about 2 months.
Oh, wow!
In June. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Can you give us a little bit of a preview?
I'm currently working on that right now, trying to get that. Yeah.
Give us a preview of this new book.
Okay, well, it kind of picks up at where The Prophet's Secrets left us. The end of Prophet's Secrets is actually a cliffhanger. I'm not going to say too much about it, but it immediately picks up from there. And so far, the review I got from my editor, he's currently editing the book, he says it's very fast-paced, really good action scenes, a lot of stuff going on in terms of inner conflicts, a lot more plot coverage, different sort of elements which are revealed. And it talks about the idea of, the end of days scenario. It's very obviously, in all the cultures of the world, we have this idea of the end of days. The world is coming, 2012, the apocalypse, whatever you call it. But I wanted to explore the idea, what if that scenario was something that is in extraterrestrial cultures as well?
Wow, that's so great.
The extraterrestrials also have, the idea of an end of the world kind of scenario.
I love that concept. Well, the recent terrible events that have happened, natural disasters, and then yesterday, again, I read of another earthquake in Japan and then one in Mexico. It kind of looks like 2012 may be quite of a momentous occasion.
Yeah, in fact, I personally believe that there might be some sort of change in 2012. We don't know whether we can't know for sure whether it's going to be the end of the world. But in terms of the way people are going to behave or the way that people are going to think is probably definitely going to be changed, because they say in many of the ancient cultures, even in the Eastern cultures, that there's an age where humanity as a whole will psychically change. So they may be more empathetic towards each other. Wars may reduce. So I'd like to see it, instead of a catastrophe, more of something where it's a renewal of humanity.
I love that theme, and I'm reminded of a guest I interviewed one time who had written a book on psychic vampirism. And, we think of vampires as blood-sucking creatures of the night that can't stand the light. But in this interview, he explained to me that there are people who drain other people's energy just by being around them. And I wonder if part of the problem of war and human conflict is that, in fact, there is a force that we're dealing with in other people that even they themselves do not realize has taken over their being. What do you think about that concept?
Yeah, it's quite possible because, mentally we only use a certain percentage of our being, and we're not really fully using our resources, physical and mental resources. And I think there might be something that's out there, or something within ourselves itself that wants to take over us as humans, and wants to, it's basically selfishness. All wars are caused by selfishness.
Agreed.
Or some sort of greed for power, or for oil or wealth or whatever. But I think the desire to do something could be something from the outside. It could be some external force.
Let's take a quick break here, and we'll come back and we'll continue this conversation with my guest host today, Delson Armstrong. He is the author of the Red Serpent series of books. The newest one, Delson?
That's The Elemental King.
The Elemental King. And these are great books, fantastic. And I'll read you a little bit about them when we come back with more. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Total Entertainment, and I'm pleased to have with me Delson Armstrong. He's the author of the Red Serpent series of novels dealing with the topic of vampirism and future cultures or alien cultures that have these kinds of problems that we are facing the prospect of an entire change, an earth change event coming up in 2012 as predicted by the Mayan calendar. And we're looking at this idea, Delson, of vampirism as an actual physical or psychic reality. And when you were writing your books, and your books are based on an alien culture and vampirism in this alien culture, where did you begin to get this concept? Where did it evolve from?
Well, before I even began writing, I first wrote the book, in a haphazard fashion in terms of the first draft. But as I read the book to myself, the first draft, I saw a lot of different themes rising up from different passages of the book. And I decided to do a little more research on the idea and the myth of the vampire. And what I discovered was that since the beginning of the ancient cultures like the Sumerians,
yes,
and the Mayans and the Chinese and the Indians and the Egyptians, they all have this concept of the vampire in one way or another.
Yes.
And again, it goes back to the idea of either draining out the blood of a person or draining out the energy of a person. And I wanted to explore more about those different ancient myths. And what I did was I kind of incorporated those myths into this series of books, where it's sort of where the myths originated from the alien culture. So it's sort of the ancient astronaut theory, where this culture actually has brought about such myths and such events on the Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. So that's one element which I brought in, and the other element was that the scenario where are we really from this planet, or have we been brought from another culture to this planet as slaves or as experiments or what have you?
That's also the premise of the movie Stargate, which was another great movie.
I haven't seen that, but I think that's a very successful series as well.
It was great because what they discovered, people found this Stargate out in the desert at the turn of the century. Right. And then, by the year 2000, they'd figured out how to open the Stargate, and what it was a corridor, like a space-time corridor, to another planet, right, where it was a slave planet. And it was run by these extraterrestrials. Well, I'm not so sure that you aren't right. I mean, I think that maybe you've got something here, that maybe we really didn't originate here, that we were put here, and this whole thing is one giant experiment.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of the theories out there that we might actually know the truth in 2012, where there's the concept of the Annunaki from the Sumerian tradition,
yes,
which says that the gods, the so-called gods, came onto the earth, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and they created DNA structures which they experimented with. And we are not the first or the second or third. We're probably like the seventh or eighth time that somebody has experimented. So, the first 7 times, or the first 8 times, it was a disaster. So, again, with the idea of the flood coming in, the different disasters, the idea of Atlantis being flooded,
right,
what if that's just an idea where, they decided to do away with that experiment and start anew? The reason why they were flooded was because they became, how should we say, sinful, or they became too good for themselves. And so it seems that the gods decided to destroy them with a flood. Again, the biblical flood of Noah.
Yeah.
Again, the God wanted to destroy them because they had become sinful or whatever it is.
Well, now this is another interesting thing, because that I read a book that talked about the Annunaki, or the sons of God seeing the daughters of men.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from the planet Nibiru, these giants showed up on Earth. And actually, in the Book of Enoch, there are references to giants, many references. And so I keep an open mind on this stuff, because science fiction is the realm of the possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so in that realm of the possible, I want to imagine a world, and I'm really waiting for somebody to do a book or a movie on this concept that at one time there were giants, that we were actually invaded by an alien sort of force of super beings, and that what they did was they, in a sense, began to corrupt the DNA of the human being. Because in the book that I read, the reason why the flood occurred was because all flesh had become corrupted, meaning there was an intermingling between species.
Right.
So I'm not so sure that isn't the case, and that what we're doing now, I mean, who knows? What would we do, Delson, if all of a sudden these giant ships, like in the movie District 9, these giant spaceships started hovering over our cities? What would we do as a people? Half the people would lose their religion right away, and half the people would want to go to war.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the whole concept of religion will probably be destroyed. Well, maybe Western religions, for example, Christianity.
Yeah.
Maybe Islam. But Hinduism and Buddhism might still remain intact as a way of life, because the idea of extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings visiting the Earth or visiting our dimension is recorded in a lot of stories of Hinduism. So for Indians or people who are affiliated with Hinduism, it might not be a surprise to them.
It's been a great pleasure having you. I would suggest that people go up and check out your books. Delson, thanks for being my guest again. I look forward to having you back.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Okay, take good care. This is Total Entertainment Radio. I'm David Ruben. Join me again next time.